The year 2026. In Berlin, there were 4 ministries of real estate. The Ministry of Affordable Housing ensured that housing became scarcer. The Ministry of Tenant Protection ensured that it became increasingly difficult for an owner to manage their own flat. The Ministry of Construction explained why building was not allowed, and the Ministry of Statistics proved every year that everything was developing in the right direction. On the facade of the Senate, 3 main principles were carved. Scarcity is affordability, regulation is the market, property is an obligation. Every citizen had the right to a flat. The only problem was that flats had no obligation to exist. To build a new building, a developer first had to prove that the construction would not harm the city. 7 years later, he would discover that it was economically impossible. This was called Wohnungsbauforderung. The party treated private owners with great respect, so much so that it defined in detail to whom and under what conditions they could rent out housing. Freedom of contract was guarded with particular care, which is why the terms of a contract were always determined by law. Every few years, the Ministry of Truth would publish a Mietspiegel. From it, citizens would retroactively learn the correct rental value. If an actual flat cost more on the market, it wasn't the table that was wrong, it was reality that was wrong. And all the worse for reality. To combat this incorrect reality, there was the Mietpreisbremse. If prices continued to rise, it meant that the brake wasn't being pressed hard enough. Then came the Milieuschutzgebiete. They protected the population from the terrible danger of too good a renovation. Replacing certain windows, changing the layout, or excessively improving the quality of housing could require special permission. The ministry explained, comfort leads to an increase in cost. An increase in cost leads to gentrification. Consequently, comfort must be controlled. But the most dangerous person in the market was the estate agent. They possessed forbidden knowledge. They knew exactly how much a buyer was truly prepared to pay and how much a seller was genuinely willing to accept. Therefore, a good estate agent had mastered the art of doublethink. Both statements could be true at the same time. To the seller, they would say, there is demand, but the market is tricky. To the buyer, negotiation is possible, but there is a lot of interest. Every morning, a new flat would appear on Immobilien Scout 24. Within 3 minutes, you had 147 inquiries. 10 minutes later, the listing would disappear. The citizen would stare at the empty screen, the screen would stare back at the citizen, and somewhere far away, the Ministry of Construction would announce, Berlin is creating new affordable housing. But he quickly dismissed this thought, because some thoughts could lead to economics, and economics was the first step towards thought crime. In Berlin, the most serious offence was considered to be thought crime. For that, it was enough to simply try and understand what was going on. It was considered a thought crime to wonder, what if high rent isn't because the landlord is greedy, but because there are too few flats? An especially grave thought crime was the thought, if owning a flat becomes unprofitable, why should a private investor build new ones? But there was one thought that the ministry feared above all else. Perhaps Berlin's problem isn't the price per metre, but a shortage of meters. Citizens weren't arrested for such thoughts. They were invited to a socio-political discussion. The housing market is too important to be left to the market. After that, the citizen had to repeat 3 truths. High prices create shortages. Regulation creates supply. The less housing that is built, the more affordable it becomes. If this seemed illogical to him, it meant he had not yet mastered doublethink, and doublethink was a mandatory condition for living in Berlin.